Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome into the latest edition, the latest episode of the AP Film Room, where we break down the X's and O's from the Chiefs' latest game. Today, we are breaking down the Chiefs' loss in Green Bay. So, unfortunate there, little, not Victory Tuesday. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at the site. As always, I'm joined by my guys, Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter, and Nate Christensen at NateCH32. Our great film analysts at the site. Fellas, we had to take in a loss this week. Definitely an unexpected one. I kind of was of the opinion we were going to see them run the table down the stretch for the most part, right? Maybe a loss here or there, but I kind of figured they'd go in and take care of business in Green Bay. Nate, man, I'll start with you, dude. How'd you feel about the game and kind of where the Chiefs are sitting all of a sudden?
Well, yeah, I was surprised, certainly. I thought the Chiefs were going to win. I really honestly thought they were going to win for the majority of the game until the Sky Moore interception. And at that point, I kind of thought that it was going to be like a loss at that point. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to credit Green Bay. I thought Green Bay played a great game on offense. We'll talk about that. I thought they gamed up the Chiefs very, very much. But Caleb was there, so I want to kind of hear more about like his experience more because he was at Lambeau Field and I was just at home watching the game.
That's true. I definitely buried the lead there, Nate. Caleb had eyes on sight. How was Green Bay, Caleb?
Well, in the words of the inebriated Packers fan who was hollering at me after the game, now you guys got to drive all that way back to Kansas City. So, yeah, it was 11 hours.
Ultimate trash talk, honestly.
Yeah, it was quite the trash talk. I don't think Vince Lombardi would be all that happy about regular season trash talk, so we'll leave that where it is because I know the Packers did it. I did let them know at one point the Packers did used to play for more important games than what they're playing for now. But no, man, that was like just the one dude. Like 99.9% of everyone up in Green Bay was cool. I've never tailgated in a neighborhood before. We did that. Shout out to Green Bay Jerry on Morris Street for letting us park there and set up our tents and everything. That was clutch. It's just such a unique experience being up there. You know, we had a little bit of winter weather going too. We didn't quite get a snow game. It was looking like it there for a minute though. Then it came down to business and the Chiefs couldn't get it done. So I wasn't like horribly upset at the loss. I got to go up there with a lot of great friends and have a great time. And that is kind of what this whole thing is about. I see people losing their minds and letting this stuff ruin their day a lot of the time. And I scrolled Twitter for 11 hours yesterday. I didn't know driving at all. I was in the passenger seat. So believe me, I've read every take there is to read about this game.
Oh man. Yeah, that's not a fun scrolling of Twitter. Cause you're right. It became a little bit of doomsday. But that's what happens. And it's just cause we love our Chiefs and we're a passionate fan base. Shout out the Kingdom. But now, hey, let's get into it. Let's talk about, what actually happened on the field and why there might be some people, getting kind of upset and thinking, oh man, can this team actually go all the way? Nate, you're talking about the defense today. I'm gonna let you lead it off because I think that was kind of the prevailing theme from the game, that the defense just kind of got worked for the most part and kind of, didn't give the offense a lot of opportunities early.
It did. To start before I get too far into this, credit the Packers. Matt LaFleur gamed up the Chiefs in a way that I haven't even basically since that last Bengals game last year in the regular season, which I will bring up later. The Chiefs defense had no idea what was going on at all, like throughout the entirety of this game. But first, there was kind of three main issues that were getting into it. And the first, we're going to start with pass rush. And I'm not going to break all these down individually. I wrote about it at the website. But the pass rush was awful Sunday. It was like legitimately awful. Jordan Love on basically every single play had multiple extra hitches in his drop because no one was even around him. He didn't have to move off his spot hardly at all. So what was the first reason? Well, the four-man pass rush just wasn't working that well. No one was winning. Like even Chris Jones, I think people are exaggerating Chris Jones's performance. I think he played fine, but it wasn't his best game. But Mike Dana and George Karlaftis, they weren't winning. Charles Omenihu wasn't as good this week as he was last week. They just weren't getting pressure on Love. Like you can watch these plays, like Love is, bailing back, taking extra hitches, and he's just able to throw deep downfield. I know this one's a bit choppy, but they just he's able to hit the top of his drop and just no one's even there. Like even on this play, like Chris Jones does win, but and Love's kind of bailing back, but like no defensive end is getting around the corner. No defensive ends, even like prohibiting him from like bailing backwards and kind of giving room to make this, insane throw. And they just weren't winning with four. Like that's really just kind of the theme of this was like their four-man rush just wasn't getting any pressure on Love. And that was a problem because Love was throwing deep downfield. Like this is a flag route versus cover two. That should almost never be open by the time this pass rush gets there, but just no one's winning. Like Omenihu gets there on a late bull rush, but Love by that point has extra hitches to get into that pass. So it just wasn't like the pass rush all day just wasn't really creating any havoc at all. This turns into a sack. This is a coverage sack. Look how long Jordan Love has in the pocket. This is 3rd and 6 to end the game. I actually think this is just a bad route concept, but like, look how much time he has. Like hitch. Like he is just sitting there forever waiting to throw. It wasn't just the four-man rush though. I thought the pressure plan was just bad. And I think some of that was the fact that they were playing Jack Conklin, to be honest with you. But like this design to me is just not very good. They're going to have Jack Conklin come through this A gap. They're going to have Chris Jones is playing wide at the edge. He's going to come try and loop around all the way to this backside A gap. Love Chris. He's just too slow to reach that. That's an impossible angle for a 300-pound guy to reach. This is a play that actually I'll get back to this. It made me really mad. This is the play actually made me most mad in the broadcast and watching the film. The Chiefs are going to send 6 here. This is the Christian Watson touchdown. Watch these 5 guys that come. Mike Edwards is going to rush off the edge. He's mainly there just in case Jordan Love bails right, just as kind of this container rush. Watch these 5 guys. There is no pressure. There is no pressure at all. Jordan Love just sits back there. Nobody gets off a block. They're all just kind of squeezed into each other. Just like they go 5-0, like nobody wins. Like you send 6, like people get mad at Josh Williams on that, but like the blitz didn't get anywhere close at all. I wanted to talk about this play in particular. It's one play. I really don't want to kill the guy, but there's a lot of questions about like why isn't Felix playing right now? And I think this is kind of just one example of this. Chris Jones actually wins here, one of the few times the Chiefs get pressure, but Felix is just not strong enough right now. You can kind of see here, like he tries to kind of hit with this bull rush, and he eventually just gets kind of pushed up field. And he's just really struggling right now with rush integrity. I just wanted to include that clip because I know there's a lot of questions about that. You just kind of notice, like, look how much space gets there because Felix gets pushed too far upfield. And kind of the final thing with this kind of crux of the pass rush was they were just awful versus play action. Almost every single time they ran play action, again, look how much time Jordan Love has to hit all the way to this deep crosser downfield. There's just no pressure at all. I know like play action can be difficult because you're moving the launch point, but what the Chiefs did Sunday against play action with their pass rush was just unacceptable. There's just too much time. I mean, this play was another kind of example. Like here's a play action pass. Like this play takes forever to develop. Like Jordan Love's just sitting there. He wants this wheel route to open. He gets tripped up. He makes it all the way back to his check down, almost like on his like 5th hitch almost. This is just too much time. There's just too much time in the pocket. It was just an unacceptable performance from the defensive line. The only other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, I thought the run defense was bad, but I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think that was mainly just because the linebacker play was just not very good this week. I thought Jack Conklin played admirable for the situation he was in, but it still wasn't very good. They were having him run blitz all the time, which just left a ton of backside gaps. It was just a day where the run fits were just awful. But another issue was the Chiefs' spine, the defense overall was just really bad. And I think that's excusable because of the injuries. But I just kind of wanted to highlight like what it exactly looked like on a lot of these plays. So the first one, this is just going to be a play action play. Justin Reed is going to just fly too far downfield. doesn't, robot to this backside crosser, too much space, just an easy first down, easy pitch and catch. That's a veteran safety. He should be able to, figure that out a little bit better. This play was that kind of play I had earlier. I don't blame Chamari on this. I think this is a pretty good route concept, and it's more about the bad pass rush. But they're going to be kind of in cover 3. They're going to run some version of kind of like a double post over. Chamari, as this kind of post goes to this post safety, he's supposed to kind of relay to this backside crosser, just a bit late to recognize it, gets his hips kind of turned inside out. Really good route concept, but still like just a bit late to kind of recognize that and get over. When you have injuries and Chamari's playing more, that's certainly something that's going to happen. Back to this play we talked about earlier. Leo Chanel twice could have given up like 60-yard plays because he didn't recognize where a wheel route was at all. Tucker Kraft just slips here, but if Tucker Kraft stays on his feet, this might be a touchdown. Like, watch how much space he has, because the Chiefs are going to be in cover 4. Trent McDuffie is going to be, taking something vertically. Look how much space is here for Tucker Kraft. Like, if he doesn't trip, that is a ton of yards right there. He's going to get a huge explosive gain right there. And that happened twice in this game. This play to me was just bad ball tracking. I don't even know who to blame, but like, there's 4 guys around 1. Someone's got to find the ball. Pretty simple stuff. This play is another play where I think this is just linebackers, but this wide receiver right here is going to run a deep curl. Just look how much space there is. Jordan Love has too much time. I actually think he just screws up this play. If he plays with any type of anticipation, that's a huge explosive play because guys are just flying downhill. This play was a cool design, but it was a jet motion. The Chiefs were just dying with that jet motion all day. LaFleur was able to game them up horizontally, vertically, just an RPO. There's just too much space. I have nothing else to explain that. There's just too much space overall for the entire day. And this is kind of the last play I showed. This is that second wheel route I'm talking about. I actually do think Leo Chanel kind of gets away with a hold here. Again, that should have been a huge play. I also think it was bad ball placement by Jordan Love. But overall, now I've talked about a bunch of negatives. Let's talk positives. I wrote this in the article. Do you guys know what happened 363 days ago? It was the Cincinnati game against the Bengals and I remember being very mad about the defense and the pass rush, and I was very worried. And then they were great the rest of the year. And I think I wrote my article. That's how I'm going to handle this year. I'm not super worried. I think there were injuries all around, but it was a bad performance, and I don't think it's excusable on any level. All the levels are bad, and it certainly isn't a good sign because certainly the offense can't carry their weight this year, and you need your defense to be elite every week if you want to win games, and they can't have a letdown in a postseason scenario. So that's why it's something we at least need to talk about.
Yes, no, that was very well put, the way you put that at the end, because you're right. Like the offense is, we've been leaning on the defense all year. So, I mean, that's kind of how this team is working right now. So, you can say, hey, like it's going to be okay. But at the same time, they can't have this kind of performance at the wrong time. But I did want to ask you before we move on, just you kind of mentioned there, like Jack Cochran coming in, potentially, simplifying things, right, for the defensive scheme. Like they probably didn't get as creative, even just in on base downs, right? Maybe not. I know you said he was run blitzing a lot, but maybe not doing as many, late rotations with the safeties or just, did you notice that? Like, did that stand out to you that they were a little more maybe simplified? And obviously you can't tell if that's why, if it's because of Cochran, but just curious.
From my vantage point, I think they were just asking him to just kind of get downhill like all the time. They're even doing a lot of just putting him on the line of scrimmage, which I actually thought was a bad decision because Cochran's not a big player and he was just getting absolutely mauled off these blocks. I thought that was a bad position to put him in, but they just didn't want him to do very much processing. And I think that was just kind of a problem overall, is like the middle of the field. Everyone else almost had to like compensate for that. And that kind of just made the structure of defense bad because like he wasn't. I want to be clear. I think Jack Cochran played a good game for what he was asked to do, but it just changes when you have your third string linebacker trying to call plays. You have to change the structure of your defense. I think that's sort of what happened, was that they just were like, okay, you're going to either fly downhill or we're going to put you on the line of scrimmage. And that just kind of like LaFleur was able to game that up with jet motion like all day. Like that's just not a sustainable way to play defense.
Yeah, no, this I think you even said it, but like this is one of the probably worst matchups the Chiefs could have been very, very bad at linebacker. Like this. I mean, obviously, there are better teams, better offenses, but just the scheme, the way they attack the second level, the way they put stress on the safeties and linebackers, and then obviously when you run the ball as well as they did, doesn't help either. So that was a great breakdown of the defense. Honestly, Caleb, I just want to make sure, or I just want to give you, a chance to talk on the defense at all for a second before we move on to the offense, just because, we we've been talking deep. You'll be talking offense later, but any thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, I mean, they're already down Nick Bolton. They lose Tranquil really early in the game. You're going to be in a bad spot against a team with a runner like A.J. Dillon, who just wants to just run it straight up the middle and just be, a big bruising back. And then against the play action stuff, that's where you're really missing Tranquil and his impact and his ability to cover. It was just it was frustrating, but I think that goes back to show everyone how important Nick Bolton can be in some of these instances where they do have to get rundowns, and B, how integral Drew Tranquil has become to a part of the defense throughout these last few weeks. I mean, he's become a key component in everything they're doing. And man, I don't know. And then Brian Cook goes down, so they're starting to get weak in the middle of the field. Derek Nottie kind of looks like he's used up all of his good snaps this season. I don't know what their plan is in there, but he's starting to revert back to what they saw the last 2 seasons and not kind of how he was improving, or he looked a little bit better at the beginning of this season. So I am concerned a little bit. I'm just glad they have Mike Edwards around, but I feel like now at some point Shamari Connor's going to get his number called quite a bit more, with Cook probably going to be missing quite a bit of time.
Yeah, no, I think the Nottie stuff, Derek Nottie, definitely stood out to me on the quick rewatch of the defense. Elton Jenkins is a great player, right? But it seemed like he was taking him to town a lot of the time, a few different times at least. But all right, defensive performance, hey, we can kind of shrug it off a little bit, right? Because there were injuries. We just talked about, it just a bad game in terms of, Omenihu went down at a point, Reed went down at a point, a lot of injuries. But on offense, a little less excusable for the things they did do wrong, because it was a good offensive performance. It was actually one of the most efficient games they've had in terms of success rate. I think I saw that. In terms of just obviously between the 20s, they were cooking. The first 4 drives, they all reached within the 10-yard line of the Packers. The last 2 they scored touchdowns, but obviously the first 2 they settled for field goals. And that was the only 2 drives of the first half. So that's why it becomes even more crucial. And so we're going to take a dive into kind of why those first few drives stalled. And the thing to me, because the problem was that there were 3 sacks on in these 2 red zone trips, which is just, that's incredible to be sacked 3 times in 2 red zone trips. You shouldn't have that many sacks in a long stretch of red zone trips, I would say. And so what you got here, to me, it's just not really active or creative, or however you want to put it, just not putting guys in positions to be, or for Mahomes to really have a place to go with the ball. So this first play, it's pretty clear that Mahomes is banking on being able to hit Pacheco here on this rub. Kelsey being able to just get enough of a rub on 34. Pacheco's just going to hit to the pylon, boom, quick touchdown. Whether or not Kelsey obviously didn't get enough of a rub for Mahomes to feel good about it, but he probably maybe still could have just trusted Pacheco to just, he could have just got him the ball and seen if he could have run him over. But once he gets off of that, where is he supposed to go with the ball? There is no active, running a post right into the post safety, which obviously they're not going to be running too high in a red zone situation. Having an underneath defender just sit right on Rice's curl route. What else did you think was going to happen? I just don't really understand where else he was supposed to go with the ball here. And obviously this is a sack Wanya gives up. We've talked about this. I think really this, and I didn't get the end zone angle because I'm more just talking about the play design, but you can see here that honestly, I really think Juwan just his pressure kind of forces Mahomes to stay back in a deep set. And that's going to force Wanya's guy to have a really nice angle around the outside. Wanya obviously gets, and Caleb, actually, I'll let you just talk about this real quick. Well, actually, shoot, you're going to be talking about it later. What am I talking about? So we'll talk about that a little later. You're going to be breaking down Wanya for us. But anyway, this play, just don't really like the available options for Mahomes once he passed up the first read. And this was the second play. Didn't have any routes drawn up on it, but this is the 3rd and goal from the same drive. To me, play is literally called Kelsey get open, and I don't know what else is about to happen because that's the only thing I can see that's a plan, and just everything else to me is just the most basic route concept, and you're just running into coverage. Like none of this is supposed to be open. Like none of this is open on paper. So I just, he could go to Rice right here. But Rice isn't even. Look at Rice. You think he's anticipating the ball? I mean, he is a little bit, I guess, but it's just he's going to get smacked right there. It has no chance at scoring. And so Mahomes gets sacked after, and I'd call this a coverage sack, which is my point, is that it's not on the offensive line giving up these sacks. It's that there's not a good enough play design and no one's getting open. But I really don't think it's on the receivers either. Like, who's supposed to get open here? And maybe it's because you'd want someone else to be running this route MBS is trying to do, which is like, boxing out someone at the goal line. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'd rather have someone else do seen over and over. Just can't. It doesn't have much play strength. So, again, I think these red zone woes a little bit on Sunday might have been because of the play calling, more so than the offensive line or the receivers necessarily. This one though is the Creed holding, and I think this one is more on Mahomes because I do think he misses Rice here on the post. Here, actually, you do get kind of a too high structure quarters look, right? And so you're going to have that opportunity to get into the middle of the field. They're going to have a drive, the dig route underneath and then the post route over the top. You don't really get this in the red zone a lot, but they had enough room to run it. And it actually works out where, these guys are sitting on the goal line. These guys are both kind of knowing that, hey, these got people underneath. Kelsey's right here too. It's Gray running the drive route, but Kelsey's kind of, the one, sitting underneath here. So obviously the safety's going to have an eye on him. Rice is open. It is a window that it's not the easiest window in the red zone. Sometimes, the windows are going to look wider than they are, but you be the judge for yourself because, once Rice is breaking open here, Mahomes definitely had a little bit of a window to put it up, right? To put it top shelf, but Rice was open and it's because this route worked. So, I called the play calling out for the first one. This was a good play call in my opinion. It worked out. And if he does hit Rice in rhythm, the holding doesn't happen because Creed's holding happens when Mahomes scrambles out. And, I think that's, I get why they called it a hold. I know it was tough. The jersey didn't really tug. But then here's the 3rd and goal on that drive. And, one thing about 3rd and goal from the 12-yard line is it is really, it's not, you don't have a lot of play calls for 3rd and goal from the 12 because it's a unique situation because you don't have, usually your 3rd and longs are going to be from, middle of the field. So you have a little more room to work with. But you can't, you don't have any underneath space to work with. You can't throw it underneath here, obviously. So it's a little tougher to design a play for 3rd and goal, I imagine. But I just don't really see any significant or any actual option here to go with the ball that makes any that I could see. I mean, Gray across the middle just to get lit up by that safety right away. Kelsey obviously has the double team on him, which you have to expect. He has underneath and a defender over the top of him helping the guy. Sky at the top. Like, yeah, you're not gonna throw that. So yeah, I just these sacks are really on coverage. I know the play before I just showed wasn't a sack, it was a hold. And that was more on Mahomes to me, but still, it's just a lot of times I just feel like, or in this game specifically, I should say, I just feel like the red zone offense just, it just wasn't effective enough. Should have finished those drives, would have been really nice. The run game was working so well. They passed on 1st down on that first drive, which was the sack. I think they could have had a better effort there. Now, let's talk about the more the stuff that stood out to us all a lot more, right? And it's the receivers, and it's MVS and Sky Moore specifically from this game. And I'm going to show this play that actually, you probably didn't catch on the live watch because it's obviously a check down here, but this to me just kind of exemplifies. And this is on the first drive too. So this is what kind of drives me crazy. I don't know if there's something about the opening script. Maybe there was just something about the read where it's like, okay, if I see this, I'm definitely checking this down. But if this is on the opening script, I just feel like not reading this out is almost like unacceptable. And if he reads this play out, I just feel like you have a huge play here, a huge opportunity. You're going to see the Packers go to 1 high. You're going to get 2 verticals from the same side. That's going to force the safety to make a decision, right? To go with one of them. He goes with Watson. He turns to Watson. Now MVS has all this room to work with on the backside in the post. And, it is cover 3. So, maybe Mahomes just assumes that corner is going to gain a lot of depth, but he doesn't. He really doesn't. Like that play could have been a huge play. And Mahomes didn't even give it. He checked down before, like, so quick. Like, he saw him turn and check down, which I just don't really understand. And so to me, it just tells me, hey, I don't want to throw that. I'm not, and it's not even maybe a conscious thing. It's more just like in the back of his head, I don't want to throw to MVS deep right now. Like, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to play it conservative. Because later in the game, we did throw it to MVS deep. And this is what you're going to see. Very similar to what happened with Justin Watson in the Philly game. We all remember the deep incompletion. Watson's going to go vertical. Watson's going to go on the go route. And against one high, instead of fading out, instead of fading away from the post safety, he runs at a direct beeline at him, which I find hilarious. Like, his route path is at a direct beeline to make it be in collision course with the safety. Like, if Mahomes leads him, he gets popped. He gets absolutely leveled, like where he's supposed to, like where he's actually going at first. And that just tells you how unaware MVS is playing right now. Obviously, it's tough. This is a too high structure at first. He sees too high. But my God, dude, like, I just, you're a veteran receiver. You get paid $11 million. Like, at some point, there's not a good enough excuse. Like, you have to fade out. So that's why the ball is incomplete. So obviously this is not on Mahomes. But let's get to it, because I don't need to go too much more on this. Yep. But let's get to it. Let's get to the play of the game, fellas. Everyone's favorite play from Sunday. The Sky Moore interception, as Nate put it earlier, which I find hilarious because it's just a Sky Moore interception. Like, it's not a Mahomes interception, it's a Sky Moore interception. Even though, here's my point, or here's what I want to say, is that I do think this is probably more on Mahomes than anything for throwing this in the first place. I think this is the first point I want to make here, because it does get closed off pretty quick. You're going to have man coverage. You're going to have this is an RPO, right? But you're going to have this release where he is going to the outside and he needs Rice to help him get that leverage. And so he's going to kind of, slow his release. And that's why you kind of see him walk off the line of scrimmage. But he's doing that on purpose because he needs this guy to just hang in there for just a second. And Rice is going to kind of rub him for you. But it just doesn't work. The rub doesn't work this time. And so Sky knows that. Sky can see that. It's pretty clear that the guy just got right over the top and is still pretty hard capping him, right? That's a term for it, I would say here, is the guy just being right on top of him vertically. And so this should be a back shoulder throw, right? It should be. Is this like, I know Sky slows down and that's why this ball's thrown more far out, but I still think this throw still isn't even as back shoulder as it could be. We've seen him throw the back shoulder to Sky earlier this year against the Jacksonville Jaguars for a touchdown. And it wasn't, this was super high. Like, even if Sky runs through this route, he is going up and getting this. And I feel like either way, you need to put it low and away on a back shoulder to Sky. You don't want to have him go up and try to go up and get it. And so either way, I feel like this play is kind of more on Mahomes than anything. But my thing is, like, why is Sky the one running this route in this situation late in the game? Like, why is this not Rice running this? Like, I'd love to see Rice or Tony run this route. Like this, I just feel like because if either of them get the ball in their hands quickly either way and they break a tackle all of a sudden, Sky's not breaking that tackle, but either of those guys could. So all that to say, I feel there's a lot of problems with this, and I don't think any of them are not any of them. Some of them are on Sky because I do think he could have ran through his route still. I think I don't think he should have slowed down that significantly.
Yes.
This is where I want to open it up to the room. Nate, you sound like you are itching to tell me what do you think about this play.
I think it's three bad parts. I hate the play call. This is my thing that nobody's talking about. This is I think this is the lowest percentage throw ever, regardless of who's throwing it. Like, why? I think this is an RPO because you see like the guard like point right, and I think that like Mahomes makes the right count. It's a 2-on-2, but like, what is the probability of that ever being caught by any of our wide receivers or anyone in general? Like the pick doesn't necessarily work, but like That is such a low percentage throw for an RPO. Just run a normal play. Like, why are we running goal line fades at the 40-yard line? That just makes no sense to me. Like, everyone's talking about, is it the throw? Is it the route? I think it's both of those to some extent, but like, I just think it's a terrible play call. I don't think this makes sense at all. I think if I was like designing this play, like, I'm certainly not an offensive expert, but I would tell it like throw it away. It makes no sense to me at all to have this like 20% throw on an RPO. I was this third down? It was 1st and 10. Just run the ball. Like, run a normal play. It was 1st and 10. Just do something normal. Like, why are we doing this in the fourth quarter of a game that the Chiefs like? That was the part to me that nobody talked about that drove me insane.
And real quick, honestly, I the RPO point is something that I'm just now kind of thinking through. Like, if you think about it, like
there's trap. Oh, sorry, Ron.
No, but there's so much pressure on like Mahomes every RPO to get rid of it quickly so you don't get the downfield throw.
Yes.
When that route's not there, he's just throwing it anyway, and that's almost you could blame on the play calling too, where it's like you're setting him up to throw a jump ball either way. Like, even if it's not there, he feels like he has to throw this almost. And so I think that extends to your point that the play call is just atrocious. But go ahead, Caleb.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks kind of like they were running they had like their trap play called up. Can you run to the end zone view real quick? I just wanted to take a look. Yeah, I mean, and they were running. It probably was going to be trap based on where Trey was going to be pulling up. But I mean, dude, I know everyone's looking at that and saying, is it on Sky? Is it on Mahomes? At the end of the day, the quarterback, he made the call. He saw what he wanted to do, and he, made the decision to try to trust Sky more on that play. Those guys are messed up right now. They have just no chemistry across the board. My big thing, though, kind of like Nate just said, is the Chiefs could have had a big rip there. You might have had Pacheco one-on-one with someone pretty quickly because the Packers kind of have all these guys like ready for the pass to begin with. And, the Packers are starting to get ready. But, I mean, what Trace, and that'd be a good learning moment for Wanya right there, because he needs to really just kind of let that inside guy go and just stick to the outside guy and just let Trey come in and just clean it up and then have Pacheco come take whoever. But my thing is, if Mahomes and Sky don't have this chemistry, how do they keep getting put in these situations where they have to
Why was this in the game script?
Plays? Why is this
That's
even
a question? Why
is it an option to do this? And this is a critical moment of the game. The Chiefs just had a big play right before this. They were moving the ball down the field, and it was starting to feel like it's going to be, vintage Mahomes. We're getting ready to come in here, and they're going to figure it out, and they did not. So, I mean, and honestly, the last time the Chiefs receiver room was this bad was not like 9 years ago, 2014. You guys can go take a look at how many of those guys were retained the next season, because I think they went and signed Jeremy Maclin. They cut Dwayne Bowe, all the other guys that were on that 2014 team outside of Travis Kelce, that were pass catchers. They didn't really come back after that. So I really just don't know how anyone in the receiver room right now could even think they might be safe for next year. I mean, if Sky Moore gets traded, they'd probably Brett Veach would take a 6th-round pick for him right now. I mean, MVS is the most cuttable player in the National Football League. Kadarius Toney, I mean, maybe they can get something out of him here at some point down the line. It's not a real great outlook.
Yeah. We can go on all day about the receivers. I'm not gonna lie though, the more I watch this play, I really hate this play call, Nate.
It's so bad. Why isn't anyone saying that? That's where it's driving me insane.
I mean, because he really is forced to throw. Like, it's an RPO. Like, it's a one. Like,
I think it's a fine read. I think it's like a fine read. I just think the route concept's awful. Right,
and that's like you're relying on the rub, and if it's not there, like it's going to be a contest. Like even if Sky runs through this, it's a contested catch opportunity. Yes. Like, so that's wow. Okay, that's Nagy,
offensive coordinator that calls plays for the Chiefs, who's never coordinated a successful offense before, though, outside of 2017.
All right. It's time. It's time to move on from all that. We could be here all day talking through Nagy and receivers. Let's kind of look at something that we don't look at a lot, right? Like individual player development, because we got to see it a little bit with Wanya Morris this week. Got thrown into the mix with Donovan Smith hurt. Oh my gosh, I missed a lot of Facebook comments while I was breaking down the stuff. So shout out Daryl, shout out David, Carl, shout out Charlie. Y'all are the best. I wish I would have saw those earlier, but Caleb's gonna talk Wanya Morris now because he's the rookie left tackle, someone that I was excited to see what he did, and there were a few exciting things he did, Caleb. So go ahead and show us what you got.
For sure, pulling it up here now. So I'm going to start off a little bit of negative, and for starters on this one, I'm glad there's so many offensive line experts in Chiefs Kingdom that told me how wrong I was. This wasn't his fault. I've been banging the drum trying to explain how this stuff kind of works for people for 3 years, but my bad on that, I guess. So anyway, the only reason I'm showing this sack, and there's up for debate, which number one, I didn't think this is really even the most egregiously deep drop Mahomes has ever had. But number two, and I'm starting off with a negative because I want to work my way into kind of what I saw and what I was really impressed with Wanya throughout the course of the game. He gets stabbed right away. His hands are bad and he's leaning. I said when I saw this happen on the field, I'm in the stadium. I could see pretty clearly from where we were at what happened. And my initial instinct was this is not going to be pretty because he looks exactly like he did at Oklahoma and in the preseason. And yeah, Mahomes gets a little deep in his drop, but still that same lingering issue that he had in college and early on was there. I didn't really think Jawan really caused as much pressure if people thought. I actually thought if Mahomes stepped up right up there on the hash, he'd have ended up being fine because Trey Smith is always there. He's having an all-pro kind of season. But it's a sack. Morris gives up a sack to Lucas Van Ness, another rookie. It happens. But how does he respond? And I'll just, we'll run it back from this other angle real quick. Seeing a guy like Morris respond kind of the way he did really impressed me because he doesn't have a ton of experience in the National Football League yet. He's played very seldom, but you can start to see that there's some buy-in, that he's really, honing what he can get from his coaches and even the players around him. Because this is stuff we didn't really see a lot of him out of Oklahoma and early in the preseason. He just throws this little stab hand. His arms are ridiculously long. I think this is his number one trait coming out of OU. He throws this stab hand at Van Ness, and it kind of throws him throws him for a loop because now his pass rush plan is almost dead. And now all Wanya has to do here, he's starting to anchor in. He's getting those arms extended out. And Van Ness is going to try to work around, but that's the benefit of having long arms is you can push those guys around. I was impressed with that, just seeing him be able to kind of go through and actually work on, his hand fighting technique. Another solid another solid rep here. Basically, he just sits in here, he locks on, and I believe that was Rashawn Gary. He's trying to break the wrists. He's trying to throw the elbows up. But this is a good, strong grip. He's got him where he wants him. He's showing a little more strength. I think he's starting to probably work on that base and his anchor. Gives him a chance. We don't run routes very well, but that's okay. And here he is again, I think that's Preston Smith out there. He's going against, kind of a bigger, bulkier rusher, and he gives him the work there, man. Look at that. He throws that stab right kind of in his neck area, kind of his chest, and he just kind of drives him past the pocket, to the point where Mahomes has a nice window to throw. He gets the pass in there to Richie James. This kind of stuff doesn't really bother Mahomes too much. I had some people saying, well, he got too close to the quarterback. I'm like, dude, that is a vicious, that's a hard punch he threw out there. You see how much the defensive line or how much the edge there is starting to strain and how he just kind of works him around. He's not really as close to Mahomes as you think he is. And a matter of fact, I think that's one of Wanya's biggest strengths is he understands his pocket angles and where he has to get to. But you see this, I think something Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor to some extent have been struggling with this year is the twist games. I think it's been more Donovan Smith than anything because he's been struggling with the inside pass rushers. But you see Wanya, he locks on here, and now he's just going to take the defensive end while Devontae Wyatt is going to be the looper. He takes the penetrator. He makes sure Joe Tooney has it in secure, and now he comes off a little late. He's off a little late. Mahomes has time, but he does just sell out. He gets one more hit on them to try to open it up. They're all fighting for effort, and MVS isn't going to get that call in that building. anyway, so it's just wasted energy to talk about. But I mean, yeah, picking up twists and stunts is hard, and the Packers threw him a lot of different looks. And what was also impressive, they gave some chip presence there, right? He got a little bit of help from his chip block there. Really, when they're running these twists like that, the chip help doesn't really make any difference. It's all about passing it off, which he does a great job. Then Tooney likewise comes off, and they get him back over. And he had multiple plays like this throughout the game. It's nice to see. I think it's a good indicator that he is, in the room, and you see another one here. Well, I believe that was the same play over again. But it's just kind of one of those indicators that he is picking up on what they want him to do. He has one here, and he gets a nice finish on the play. And that is something I do like about Wanya. He's extremely physical. He plays hard. He plays to the whistle. He's a high IQ guy, and I do think this was a solid performance. And you can just take a look here from the end zone view, but they're going to be running this ET again, and he does a great job passing off to Joe. This is how it's supposed to look like when you pass the twist off, okay? They're almost shoulder to shoulder. He's got his hands on until Joe Tooney completely secures it, and then, he comes off, and he just kind of throws him. He's he's developing. Honestly, I think he's probably been working with Donovan Smith a little bit, because he does kind of play like a younger Donovan Smith did, the way he kind of clubs people. So I think there's maybe been something there. And then the run game, he was good. Chiefs were really good run blocking the entire game. They should have probably stuck to the run a little bit more in some situations to get down the field. But here's just Wanya and Tooney. I honestly thought Wanya here, he gets him caught a little bit turning. He can probably work to hip in a little bit more and bring some more power, but they're hip to hip. They're just working, they're fighting, they're just rooting the guy out. And Kenny Clark is a good football player. Everyone else, gets their job, but you can't they can't get this big gain without that down block right there.
Yeah, that I just want to say that was beautiful. That was a beautiful down block for a rookie left tackle. I mean, the first game, that was awesome. I mean, I know you just kind of pointed a little fun, the technique thing a little bit, but it was just to cave down on that. I just wanted to say that was a thing of beauty for sure.
Yep. And then we got the zone play, and honestly, man, he's got some power when he can just get going after guys. He comes in here with this good pad level number one. The defensive end's trying to stab him, work the handoff, forklift, and now the defensive end's in trouble because he's about to put his hands on the inside. And you see he's creating some space. And then, at the end, he comes in, he gets involved with everything also, and they're fighting to try to, it's a scrum in there. I love it when the Chiefs do that, honestly. It's kind of like their version of the push in some ways because Pacheco doesn't go down so easily. And then just another play. This play got called back because Kadarius Toney was not paying attention to where he's lined up, I believe. But the defensive end starts to want to work his way back to the inside. And instead of just chasing and turning, he gets it turned, but he's waiting and he secures it off for Toney. But now instead of just sticking on him, he realizes I'm kind of like a lead blocker here now. So he actually goes up, latches onto the linebacker, really good block in space, athletic. And again, he just fights hard through the whistle. He's kind of like Trey Smith in some ways. We know that they were, friends. He's played in similar systems to Creed and Trey. So the kind of mentality he's going to have. And real quick, just let me take a look. I did do some grades on him. I had him 27 pass block snaps for 21 wins, 15 run block snaps with 12 wins. I did give him the credited for allowing the one sack just because I thought even though Mahomes dropped deep, I did think that if his hands were better on that, he would have been able to fight off Van Ness a little bit more. But I'm also going to give him credit for 4 impact blocks. I thought those twist plays to be able to give Mahomes time to throw were big. The down block on power was big. And then it was another one of those big pancake blocks he had. It was kind of a tone-setting play. I thought that was good. So I'm not going to be everyone's starting to say, well, there's long-term left tackle. There's a lot more that's got to happen. We got some really good pass rushers coming up on the schedule here for the Chiefs the next few weeks. So I don't know what's up with Donovan Smith. I don't know. Honestly, I know he has been on the injury report with the neck. They took him out. They've done some rotating here and there. I didn't know if they'd are going to finally make him actually get treatment on it, or if he's becoming such an issue that they're just ready to put him on the bench. I'm assuming it's going to be more on the injury side of things, but we're going to really figure out what they're going to figure out here in the next couple of weeks, probably likely what they have in Wanya Morris. And really with the way Andy Reid does the offensive line, if he gets hot at the right time, he's going to be on the field for the end of the run.
Nate, what were your kind of initial thoughts on your Wanya after seeing the rookie in action for the first time?
I thought he played well, very well. I thought his run blocking game was better than any Donovan Smith run blocking game. Certainly in the past 5 weeks, Donovan Smith has been just atrocious run blocking for like a month now, which might be related to his health. It could be very well related to his health. But this is a basic way to look at it. The Chiefs have no long-term investment in Donovan Smith. They have some level of long-term investment in Wanya Morris. Maybe Wanya Morris isn't a starting left tackle, but we need to know before this offseason because they're going to need a lot of moves at wide receiver, defensive tackle, potentially a safety. They have a lot of needs. I don't want to go into the draft being like, well, the Chiefs need a left tackle and they need 2 wide receivers and they probably need to replenish defensive line depth. Oh, they could probably use a safety. And who knows what happens to L'Jarius team. So let's just see what Wanya Morris has. If it doesn't work out, we can at least make a move in the offseason. But I don't want to go into April without some level of clarity on that. So give him snaps. And if it doesn't work out, you can put Donovan Smith back in. But I just want to see it at this point. Grow the sample size so that it's a long-term decision at this point with Wanya Morris.
You know, I like that thought just in terms of, hey, throw Donovan on IR, even if he doesn't need it, give him 4 weeks of rest at the very least. If, you know, I know you don't want to put a rookie left tackle out there if you don't feel like he's, you know, but he just played a full game and against a decent defensive line. And I kind of like that thought because even, I mean, you could always go back to Donovan when he's feeling much better and healthier and fresher in the postseason. And maybe you feel like, you know, that's a better call in pass protection. That's an interesting thought. I'd be curious if we get any sort of like injury news with Donovan tomorrow. Make sure you follow the site arrowheadpride.com tomorrow to check that out because the press conferences will be sometime during the day. Pete will be there. We'll be breaking it down, writing it all up. So make sure you're following all of us. Make sure you're continuing to check out the site, check out everybody on Twitter. Appreciate you joining tonight. Appreciate everybody that was commenting. I wish I would have got y'all's comment while I was breaking it down. I was just so into the film. But David, Daryl, Charlie, Carl, shout out Daniel Berry as always. Hefe, make sure you come back next week. We'll be talking more X's and O's Chiefs football. Until then, make sure you're just checking out the site. Appreciate you guys' time. Have a good night.